My father, he just got mad at my mom, got pissed off, triggered. He was fighting with her very violently. It escalated from verbal argument, shouting, and then to physically trying to push her out of the car on the highway, no less. I mean, nobody throws their wife out of the car in the middle of a highway. But here he was, get out of the car, and unfastening her seatbelt like that. And it was very traumatic, sitting at the back as a little kid. It was just too much. It was so bad. Okay, so the first question is, was it just tough love? Okay. Was it just tough love? No, it wasn't. Because love is not abuse and abuse is not love. The abuse for me started when I was 8 years old. It just happened so out of the blue. I was so unexpected and unprepared with the way that he suddenly turned quite vicious. There's one incident that I do remember, my father hitting my mother. Basically, my father got very upset with my mom for working overtime because he expected my mom to be home by a certain time to cook dinner and take care of me and my sister. My father would physically hit her and calling her all kinds of names. And I was so scared and traumatized. I was shaking physically myself from witnessing him hitting her and her taking all the abuse, screaming, crying. And I had to quickly go into my room, my own bedroom, and close the door. And I was just shaking. Yeah. I think I never felt safe. I always felt vulnerable, nervous, and anxious going home, whether it was from school, from church, from outside, anywhere. I would always feel the nervous shakes and jitters in my body physically. Yeah, it was like walking on eggshells, walking on eggshells around him. You just don't know when one little thing would trigger him into a mad frenzy or an explosion of anger. So it felt very unhinged. So I would run out of the flat, run out of the HDB block, and then I would run to the streets, 10, 11, 12, sometimes going past midnight, crying solo on the street side, alone by myself, very dangerous. But that was my coping mechanism, the only one I knew how to get out and escape from that mad hellhole and that chaotic, violent situation I was in. That's when I turned suicidal, running up to the top floor, 25th floor of the building, attempting to end the pain that I could not take anymore. Beneath all that, it was the deep sense of grief and loss of a fun father, a safe parent. Yeah. Okay, question here is, why didn't you just tell someone? After that incident where she got hit by my dad, she came to my room crying, battered up, took me and my sister in her arms and crying in tears, told me, don't you ever tell anyone about what happens and goes on in our family. She didn't want to suffer the repercussions of what would happen if my dad found out. And I think she was very scared of being further hurt, abused, or even killed by him. There was one time that, my father was driving us to church and he got into one of his big arguments with my mom and got offended by one of her responses she made. I know he just got mad at my mom, got pissed off, triggered. He was fighting with her very violently. It escalated from verbal argument, shouting, and then to physically trying to push her out of the car on the highway, no less. I mean, nobody throws their wife out of the car in the middle of a highway. But here he was, get out of the car, and unfastening her seatbelt like that. And it was very traumatic, sitting at the back as a little kid. It was just too much. It was so bad. Yeah, it was not pleasant at all. So definitely I felt very helpless because why isn't she taking care of herself? Why isn't she protecting me and my sister, And she keeps telling us not to say this. It's like I was confused. I didn't know what to do about it because I expected and depended on her to do something right about it, even though she couldn't. So I think 6 years worth of this I was reaching my limit. And I snapped too. So I said, Dad, you're so stupid. Why do you keep fighting like that with Mom? And you need to stop. And he couldn't take that talk back. He turned around and roared and glared at me. What did you say? And I knew in that instant I couldn't take it back. And the next thing I felt was this giant hit on my face. And I was reeling backwards from the force and the sting of that slap that he gave me. And so I realized, like, enough, you've hit my mom, you've hit the mates, I'm not gonna let you hit my sister and me. So that was what caused me to take a stand for myself and go get help. My mom didn't want me to report him to the police. So she was telling me, are you crazy? If you go report your dad to the police, he'll go to jail. How are we supposed to survive? We have no more income, cannot send you to school. But all I knew was, I need to protect myself. And just being there in the police station was really like, thank God, I could finally tell somebody. And at least, even though I felt very vulnerable sitting there in front of the police officer who was taking down my report, I felt like this is a much better place to be in than being stuck every night, always feeling the threat of being attacked by my father. When I got the personal protection order, PPO, and stepped out of the police station, my dad was there actually outside waiting. And that's when I felt really bad for him and for myself, because in my heart, in my mind, I was thinking that this is not the way. This is not how it should be between you and me and us. This is not what I wanted it to be. With the way that I was being abused by my father, I didn't feel entirely 100% safe connecting with men. I told myself, if this is what marriage looks like, no way, hell no, I'm not going to get married. No. But then, of course, life always has other plans for us. And I ended up meeting Joshua. He chose to be my friend, and I felt safe with him. And I felt like, he's not rejecting me and he's not being unsafe. He's not like my father at all. I remember walking down the aisle on my wedding day, going, wow, this is it. I'm finally going to break free, and I'm finally going to be free from this 22 years worth of hell and chaos. And it was so ironic because it was my dad walking me down the aisle, but I thought like, now I could feel myself entering a different new era or season of my life, brimming with hope.
Were you really free from it even after you got married?
So the truth is that after I got married, I wasn't entirely free yet because of all the woundings in my soul, and in my memories that had been unprocessed, unresolved. Like if you have a physical wound and you don't treat it, you don't put antiseptic or medicine on it, it will just rot and get worse and worse and worse. I had that situation, when my husband wasn't at home, but I was alone at home. And then I'll be thinking of feeling very lonely. It's like reminiscent of when I was running out on the streets at night, being alone by myself. So I think that was a trigger for me. And I would want to end that pain. So I was still attempting, even after I got married. What had happened was that I had a divine intervention, actually, I would say. Most people might not believe it, but to me it was real as it can be. I was alone at home in the flat. My husband was out for work. This was about nighttime after dinner. And I was again triggered, feeling alone, very lonely, like, wow, what is this pain I'm feeling? It's like, I'm feeling abandoned, I'm feeling pain. And I couldn't take that painful, overwhelming feeling. So I went to the window in the kitchen and I took a stool. I wanted to once again jump out. But I noticed, I looked up and I saw that the moon was there. And the moon had always represented God for me. The only person that I could feel safe with and turn to when I was seriously alone like that. And that was when God told me, you don't have to die. Don't do this. Don't take your life. It was this presence of a God who understands and empathizes with my pain in a way that no one else has ever been able to, that I could not articulate to anyone else. And in that moment, that was all I needed to make me step back and say, okay, God, I won't take my life. And I stepped off the stool, and right then, Joshua actually had come back. He pulled me away from the window. So it was really like a divine intervention. And that was the last time, because I said, God, I'll never do that again. I'll never try to end my life. Okay, this question says, are you scared of turning into the kind of parent your father was? Now I'm not, because I'm fully recovered, thank God. But back then, when I was a young mom, and I was raising my 2 kids, for sure I was. One day, what happened was that I lost my temper, lost my cool. I was still not done 100% with being healed from all the trauma, all the anger issues that I had. So I was taking it out on my present family, on my husband and on my kids. And I actually almost physically hurt them myself. And that made me that reeled me back and made me go, oh my gosh, what am I doing? So that was the moment that I realized that I was turning into the monster that I had labeled my dad as. I have to continue to get help. There were anger wounds, anger issues that came after being healed from my depression that I had to resolve. So I definitely had to forgive my dad because I was actually inevitably putting myself in a prison of pain and torture by being resentful towards him in my anger. There's this quote by Louis B. Smith that says, "To forgive is to set free a prisoner and realize that it was you." So every time I would feel angry, the end result of that would be, do you want to let it go? Even though you can't forget. Because I want to be free too, and I don't want to hurt my children. I don't want to hurt my husband this way anymore. Yeah, so forgiveness was a must. Yeah, so it was always like that for about maybe 4 years, about 4 years. I've forgiven him a long time ago. He knows that. I've had a conversation with him along with my mom, and they've actually apologized to me as well. Yeah, and thank God for that because they didn't do that. I don't know how. But reconciliation and forgiveness are two very different things. From what I know and what I've learned, you can forgive somebody, but if that person doesn't change out of their abusive or toxic ways, unsafe patterns, then it's not safe or doesn't make sense to reconcile because what you're getting back into is still the same old dysfunctional toxic relationship. So for me and my father, we are not yet 100% reconciled, even though he and I have mutually sought forgiveness. So I haven't seen him since 3 years ago when I had that conversation with him. He doesn't want yet to change out of this pattern. Yeah, so I've learned to accept that and not begrudge him that. So I've always endeavored and strived to, ever since I knew I was pregnant with my first daughter, Sharon, I'm not going to let my daughter become hurt the way that I was based on what my kids say, that they feel safe with me and they do think I'm a good parent. Not perfect. I am trying my best every day to be a good parent. Yeah. So I have so many things that I love to encourage, folks like me out there, young to old, who are going through similar situations like me. I think the first word of advice would be, don't hurt yourself. Love yourself. You're deserving of love. And if you feel that you are being violated in any way, speak up. Don't suffer in silence the way I did. There are still good people out there. You just need to look out for them and tell somebody whom you feel safe with that you feel you can trust, even if it's just one soul. No matter where you're at, where you come from, you're a person who has so much worth and value. You matter, you're important, and you're so very loved. If you need to know more about how you can get help out of a situation like that, this book of mine that I wrote offers some tips and information, about where you can get help from and then how you can walk out of the whole anger and forgiveness process if you are ready to take that leap, out of that dark place in your life.